Hi, it's Tessa with hipover50.com. Thanks for joining me today. As you may know, I moved over to England from the US a few years ago, and I have been living here and getting used to it ever since. And I just want to talk to you about what it's like living here as an American because I know there's some misconceptions and maybe things that you thought you knew but weren't really sure about. So today we're going to talk about three of the things that I think are the most challenging for Americans to get used to here. First off, no discussion would be complete without talking about driving because driving here is challenging. Getting your driving license here is challenging. So, to start off with, you can live here for up to 12 months and drive on your US driving license. You will be driving on the wrong side of the road, and you will probably be driving a standard vehicle because most cars here have the are standard and they have the stick shift on the left hand side. So that's a little tricky if you're right handed and you're used to using a stick with the right hand side, or if you're not used to driving a standard shift at all, because most cars in America are automatic. So that's the first thing. You will be driving a standard car likely. After 12 months, you will need to get your full UK driving license. This involves sitting and taking a theory test, which is all about the rules of the road, and then taking a practical driving test, which you will have to go out with a driving instructor in a car, either yours or the driving instructor's, and take a test. Now, it took me 5 times. Yes, I'm not kidding. 5 times to pass the test. It is hard. Now, if you're somebody that's very good at details and have a lot of patience, you may do much better than I did, but I just want to warn you that it can be challenging. So you will have to start from scratch to get this test. There is no reciprocity. There's no handing in your US license and getting a UK license. It's as if you were starting from scratch, like I said. And be aware that if you take the test as I did, I ended up buying an automatic card just so I could take the test because I thought I wanted to remove one more challenge from the driving test. So I bought an automatic car, which means I can only drive here in an automatic car. If you take the test in a standard vehicle and pass it, then you're allowed to drive either standard or automatic. So that's just something to be aware of. And driving here is different. I mean, there's no question about it. You're not just driving on the wrong side of the road, but a lot of the road challenges are very different. I mean, your GPS will send you down lanes and you think there's barely enough room for one car, and then you'll see a tractor coming at you from the other direction, or you'll see somebody walking some horses. I mean, it's always something different, and the roads are a lot narrower. Here, cars are allowed to park on the pavement, as they call sidewalks, and they're allowed to park on both sides of the road. So sometimes you'll only have a single lane, and people will have to stop and let each other through. So it is very different. Just be aware of that. You don't have to drive here. There is a lot of public transportation. There's trains, buses, taxis. So depending where you live, if you live in London, for example, I wouldn't even consider getting a car or driving. I mean, there's so many options to get around that you wouldn't need one. But if you are going to be out in the country, you probably will want to get a car or at least be able to drive one. So the second thing that I find is really different here is probably the difference between American attitude and British attitude. Let's start with customer service. Now, in the US, the customer is always right? I mean, that's just a given. If we aren't happy with something on our plate or we're not happy with service, we will tell somebody and they'll probably try to fix it. Here, that's not the case. In fact, you could walk into a restaurant or a pub or a store and they may not even greet you. So, in fact, that's probably the norm. And it's not because they're rude, it's just not a thing here. Servers, for example, don't work for tips the way they do in the US. They are paid a living wage, and then they may get a tip. Some restaurants do impose a service charge if you have a party of 6 or more, or a higher end restaurant may just impose a service charge. But it's never as much as a US tip. So people who don't work for tips, and that just, I think it balances things out a little so they're not as eager to kind of stand on their head to please you or to get the meal right. But it also means that they're not rushing you to get through your table so they can get the next party in. I mean, you can sit for hours at a table here and nobody will say a thing. And that's pretty common because the lifestyle here is much more relaxed. People will sit outside having a coffee. They'll go somewhere for coffee and cake. They will sit for hours just talking and sitting over a cup of coffee, and nobody will say a word. It's sort of that is expected. That is the norm, that you will go somewhere and relax and have, a coffee or a cup of tea and, have a sandwich or a piece of cake. And, you can sit there, like I said, as long as you want and nobody will bother you. So that's the good side of the more relaxed culture. The other side of it is that you don't get the customer service that you may be used to in the US. The third biggest thing I think that is near and dear to all of us is the property market here is very different than it is in the US. Now, I bought and sold multiple properties in the US. I had my real estate license in 2 different states. And so I kind of knew how the property market worked. I knew how, buying a property went. I knew how selling a property went. And occasionally, I think a long time ago, I used to rent properties. But in the US, we have what's called the multiple listing service, as you probably know, where any real estate agent can put a house on the market and any other agent that's part of that multiple listing service or belongs to it can show it. Here, that is not the case. There is a property portal called Rightmove, which is, you can see all of the properties that are out there, either for sale or for rent. But the only person that can show you that property is the one that has a listing. So it gets a little tricky. So if you want to see, several different properties in one town, you're going to have to go to several different real estate agents or estate agents, as they're called here, to view them. And if you want to put an offer on one of those properties, you're going to be putting it with the estate agent that has a listing, which, their fiduciary duty is really to the seller. So I think that means you should be a little more aware of what you say and what you do. There are buyer's agents here, but it's not as big a thing. It's more to find a property because property was so difficult to find, especially during and after the pandemic. But it's not meant so that you have that fiduciary duty to your buyer. That's the other thing, is that there aren't as many consumer protections along with the customer service. There just doesn't seem to be as many consumer protections as we may have been used to in the US. And the property process, buying a property, is very long because it has to go through a solicitor or a lawyer. It has to pass through a lot of hands. It can take months. I've known people who've taken like 3 to 5 months to close on a property. And it can be gazumped or changed at the last minute. There's no sort of, okay, you've got your financing in place, you've signed off on the property inspection, boom, you're in. No, here you can get out of it right up until the last minute, and a lot of people do. Or they'll wait to the last minute and they'll say, oh, by the way, I want more for that property. Or by the way, I don't want to pay that much for that property that we agreed on. So it's a little bit of a wild west. The estate agents here, as they're called, they're not licensed. Nobody, they're just not licensed. So people don't really have a lot of respect for them, unfortunately, and they only get like a 1% commission. So there isn't a lot of sort of skin in the game for them to do a good job. It's just weird. I mean, I much prefer the US system, but it's just something to be aware of. Now, if you have a British passport or you have the right to remain here, you can rent a property on a long-term tenancy agreement or letting agreement. But if you don't, you can't. It is not legal to rent a property long-term here if you are not a resident or have legal right to be here. Now, you can buy a property. You may not be able to live in it, but you can buy a property here, and you'll probably have to buy it with cash. But you can't rent a property here. So if you do, as I suggest, come over here for up to 6 months to see how you like it and to kind of get your feet wet, you can absolutely rent an Airbnb, go through a short-term rental. That's what I've done in the past. You can go month to month, but you cannot sign a long-term letting agreement for let's say 6 months or more through an estate agent unless you're a resident and legally able to live here. So those are some of the things that I think are a little different: the property, the kind of customer service attitude, and the driving. If you have any questions or any ideas on future videos you'd like to hear on the differences, I'd love to hear them. Just put comments in the box below, and I will talk to you soon.